So, he started to tell me about walk-ins, but I'm not sure if I grasped the finer points.
It's kind of a new age religion based on an old idea that if you lose hope or despair and want to leave this mortal coil, you become open and vulnerable.
To inhabitation by a new spirit.
A new enlightened spirit. According to the literature, Abe Lincoln was a walk-in, and Mikhail Gorbachev and Charles Colson, Nixon's advisor.
But not Nixon?
No, not even they want to claim Nixon.
Happy New Year! Hello and welcome to episode.
That was a really good.
That was a good night.
Yeah, that was. What are they called?
The party blowers. I don't know.
Party blowers.
Party blowers. We'll call them. That was good. No, it's not as good.
Leave it to the professionals.
Yeah. Anyway, hello and welcome. To episode 38 of Most Unwanted Next Door podcast. I'm Luke.
And I'm Checks.
Oh, now he gets professional already.
Hi everybody, how are you?
Not bad. Am I the audience now? Am I playing the audience?
I was asking the audience. You're so rude sometimes, Luke. The New Year's changed you.
How are they going to come back?
Sorry?
How can they get back to you? Tweet.
They can tweet us.
They can tweet us.
We'll wait.
We'll wait, yeah. Anyway, I think we should carry on.
We keep doing that awkward silence. I love it.
That's pretty much our comedy go-to, isn't it?
Yeah. But it is always funny.
But anyway, Checks. It seems a bit silly to ask this. I was going to ask, how was your New Year?
Yeah.
2 weeks away from the event.
My New Year was incredible.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Let's hope we don't have Y2K19. That's all I'm asking. Anyway, I'll just say, how has your week been? And we'll just go from here.
Okay.
Like, just tell me, how has your week been? What have you been up to leading up to the recording of this, I suppose? Because we didn't cover it last week anyway, so...
Yeah, we didn't. It's been alright. I mean, I've been busy. I'll let everyone know, give them a glimpse behind the curtain. We're recording this before even Christmas.
Yeah.
So...
the 20th, if you want to...
The thing is... it's so busy the next couple of weeks. We've got to get it in early. We have to pre-plan.
Imagine trying to record it every week. We'd just be here.
It's just a nightmare.
It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, it's definitely not feasible. I know podcasts that do record every week, but they get paid.
That's usually their job. Yeah.
So that's all right. I wouldn't mind doing that.
Hey, I would do it every week. Hey, if we get enough people to sort of support us as a job. Then I'll do it every week.
Well, I'll do it every day, Luke.
I'll do it every day. Yeah, I'll record whatever you want.
Do that.
I'll just keep talking non-stop. Be like the McElroy brothers.
Imagine that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Luke talking non-stop.
I'll run out of things to think of eventually. My mouth will just take over.
You just tune in 36 hours later and it's just you making noises.
Yeah. I won't be making that one. I can't do it.
You can't do it, no.
But anyway, yeah. What have you been up to? How have you been? And
I've been good. I've been busy. I've been getting Christmas presents sorted and a lot of shopping, a lot of going out for Christmas meals and various different things. I went out. We didn't talk about our Christmas parties and how that turned out. Yeah. So I might as well talk about that. We went to this masquerade ball. It was really good. Really enjoyed it. Had a little bit of a little drink, a little dance.
Make a little love.
Shh. My fiance listens to this.
I was hoping you'd do the last line of the song.
Get down tonight.
That's the one. Yeah.
I get down tonight.
Okay.
I'm dancing as well for everyone that can't see me. We should. I really want to add a video element.
We should, but that's more equipment that we can't afford.
Yeah, that's
good. To be fair, I could do it with my phone, but I don't know if it'd have the same appeal. You know what I mean? And it's another thing I've got to edit.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. So yeah, it was good. We ended up getting a little bit tipsy. I ended up in a 90s pop club.
Yeah,
local to where we live. Until 5 o'clock in the morning, which it sounds fine. I've stopped doing that a couple of years back, and I felt it the next day, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But, you know what? Bloody enjoyed it, so... Yeah, got into the festive spirit this week, I think. What about yourself? How was your Christmas party?
Yeah, I also went on my Christmas party this week as well. I went into London, and I always forget how expensive London is until I'm there.
So expensive.
I think we went over this last time, but in summary, we, same thing, got a little drunk, did a lot of dancing.
Yeah. I love a good dance. Yeah. Dancing's so great.
It's good when you've had a bit to drink.
Yeah.
When you're not, it's a bit awkward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you don't have that sort of pressure on you and you're moving freely. Yeah. I love that. Like you can just dance terribly. That's my favourite.
But yeah, it's good. Like a lot of the drinks were free, so like beers and wine was free,
Always good.
which is great. And then afterwards, after that party, we decided to go out in London for probably about an hour. And in that hour, even though I pretty much didn't spend any money in the actual party, apart from a few vodkas and whatnot, in that hour outside of the party, I spent £55, I think. Just trying to get in anywhere. To be honest, it was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah.
So where did you end up going? What sort of was it? A club?
It was sort of like an in between a bar and a club. It wasn't like big enough to be a club, but it was sort of too big to be a normal bar.
What sort of music did they play?
A lot of Sean Paul.
Oh, nice.
It was that kind of like dance hall, like reggaeton kind of like sound, and it was good. To be fair, everybody was in there. We saw one of the guys who came with us had got so drunk that we had to literally hold him up to get him in the club. Like he was sort of leaning backwards and sort of falling over. So I had my hand on his back, like I was just sort of like my hand around him. I was holding him up, and we just told him don't say anything. He got in, paid his entrance fee and everything. It was crazy, but yeah, we stayed there literally about an hour and then left. Yeah. So a bit pointless. But
I didn't barely spend any money at all because when one of my friends from work that I went to the it's called Pop World, the club.
Yeah.
That I went there with, bought in a little mini flask.
All right.
So she hid it, got it in, it was full of rum. So we just was ordering Cokes all night and just topping up. It was amazing.
Why was no one at the bar suspicious? Like
I know, yeah.
When I used to work in a bar, if someone came up to me and said, "Can I have a Coke?" and kept going, and they kept getting drunk, I'd be like, "Wait a tick." But hey, also I have been watching something. I do my mini reviews as usual.
Luke's mini reviews.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to jingle for that.
No, we've got too many. As it is.
It's something that Jem has been watching as well.
Okay, what is that?
The Haunting of Hill House, the Netflix series.
The Netflix phenomenon.
Yeah.
Everyone's been going crazy about this. Is it good?
Really good.
Is it?
Really good. Yeah. I've never seen a ghost story that's been so effective. Like it really sort of paints like how ghosts are, like because it's all about this haunted house essentially, but there's like twists and turns obviously, and some things aren't all they appear and whatnot, as is every story I suppose. But it's got the best depiction of ghosts that I've ever seen in something, that they're sort of timeless and they don't adhere to what we know as time. Basically they're in this house. I can't really say too much without spoiling like one of the episodes massively, but yeah, there's something where something happens where it echoes basically through the house, like
throughout all the different times,
and and it's just really good. It's really creepy. There's pretty much like one jump scare in the entire show, and because it's just that one, it's so effective because you aren't ready for it, because it's all stuff in the background, slow camera angles, it's that classic horror tension building. It's never like, oh, that made me jump. It's always like, oh, this is creepy, this is weird. So yeah,
I'm gonna have to give it a go. You've actually just sold me on it.
It's really, really good.
I don't think I'm gonna watch it over Christmas.
No,
it doesn't feel very Christmassy.
No, we got it out the way before Christmas, and then we've just been hammering Christmas specials now.
You know the problem I have though.
Yeah,
I want to watch all these new shows. I want to try something different, and then me and Jem was like, what should we watch this week? We've started Boardwalk Empire again. We always go back to old faithfuls because I just love them so much.
Do you know what? I've stopped doing that now. I used to like rewatch and replay and, do stuff now. But as soon as I get the urge, this is really nerdy, so like, nerd alert, get ready. As soon as I get the urge to watch or play something that's old, I've got like a list of other stuff that I really want to do, that I just look at that and go, no, do something from that instead, to just go through new stuff. Because the amount of times where I've gone through and I've played Metal Gear Solid about 7 times, and I'm like, I need to just play something else.
Yeah, you don't need to play it again.
Yeah,
so, I know what you mean.
But yeah, it's like crazy stuff like that. So yeah, I've started making lists of things I actually want to do, and whenever I start like go into that, I'm like, no, actually, I'll try something new. I'll try
something new. Use that time wisely.
Yeah,
I should do, but still, I'm halfway through season 1 of Boardwalk Empire. So what can I say?
Yeah, it's one of those things. But anyway,
who's in Boardwalk Empire?
Go on.
It's Al Capone. See, remember my Al Capone impression from like it's a callback?
Yeah, I don't even remember it.
Do you remember my Al Capone? No. Yeah, Al Capone.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Better left unsaid. Do you know where that joke should go? In a red museum. I feel like it was pretty good. That was a good callback. It's an
What's
old.
the red got to do with anything?
It's the name of the episode. So this is episode 10 of series 2 of the X-Files, titled Red Museum. It was directed by Win Phelps, written by Chris Carter, and the original air date was December the 9th, 1994. So we've jumped back in time.
Yeah. We had 1997 was the last episode.
Yeah.
So
it was the beginning of 1997 as well, so it's sort of like a 2-year, just over a 2-year gap.
Very interesting. Is this the first time we've seen Win Phelps directing an episode?
I think so, yeah.
Win Phelps, should I say.
Yeah, I've not seen his name before. So.
No, I don't remember it. So, interesting.
It's a new one.
A new style to have a look at.
But anyway, we'll jump straight into the episode. So, we open with we see a sign that just reads the JASD beef.
Yeah.
And this is in Delta Glen in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
We've had this before.
Done this before.
Yeah, let's not go down that hole
again. To be honest, this podcast's just become a rehash now, so you'll notice similarities. We'll just keep making the same jokes.
We're very cyclical, aren't we?
You know what? We like what we like.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
So
we just hope you like it too.
Yeah, get ready for the usual Washington joke.
We see some cattle, and they're all heading into this like pen. You don't know what it is at first, but then they make it very clear with a hard cut to a side of beef.
Watching stuff like this, I'm not vegetarian. I'm not tempted to be a vegetarian. But I still find things like this hard to watch.
Do you know what?
It's how brutal they are with it all. Do you know what I mean? That's all it is. But
do you know what? Like, I've never been bothered by it before. Like, I've watched. Have you seen that documentary, Earthlings?
No.
It's like a documentary showing like how animals are mistreated basically by different industries, and even that, like, knowing the truth of what goes on, it never bothered me. I could like handle it.
Well, it's not that it doesn't bother you, but it's, you're still going to eat bacon.
Yeah,
that type of thing. I know what you mean.
You can sort of.
It's not like you want chickens to be mistreated.
Yeah,
but I know what you're saying.
But the other day, I was walking to work and I saw a van full of sheep.
Yeah, it comes past my work every day in Walden.
Drive past, and I saw them. I was like, oh, that's a shame, innit? Like, because they're probably off to be killed. And I was like, I had a bit of like sympathy, and I spoke to Tash about it this year. Again, I'm not making resolutions. I'm definitely not making promises. Oh, it's not going that far. We're going to try and cut back from meat. You know what I mean? Like, we're doing the Paul McCartney.
Vegetarians have got you, Luke.
Yeah, they've got me.
Like a lamb to the slaughter.
No, definitely not like that. Definitely not. No, but no, we sort of thought, let's give it a go, you know what I mean? Let's see how far. Because, do you know what? Cutting out meat's not a massive problem. I couldn't be vegan. Vegan's like one step too far. I can't have no cheese. You know what I mean? Like
that's your cut-off point.
Yeah. No way. There's no way I wouldn't have a cheese.
You never used to like cheese.
I know. I now love it.
And now you love it.
I found the love of cheese. Do you know what it was? Hate cheddar. Cannot fucking stand cheddar.
Fair enough. I mean, it's a strange stance to have. To feel so passionately about.
The most British of cheeses. Get it out.
What's your favourite cheese?
Camembert.
Oh, yeah. God, that was... You straight away, you knew.
Why? Because...
I didn't ask why. You just literally...
Get ready.
You're so desperate to tell me why that you created my question in your head.
Yeah, this
Why? I'll tell you why.
This is like one of those interviews on the telly. You go, oh, he's leading this one, isn't he? You cook the camembert, right?
Yeah.
You get some bread.
Yeah.
You dunk that bread in that camembert.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it tastes
good.
It tastes so good.
Is it good?
It's like a starter or like an appetizer. Amazing. Or camembert, the fried ones. Like,
yes,
nice.
I do like fried
nice.
camembert. It is nice. I'm on simple pleasures. I like a bit of red Leicester.
Red Leicester's alright.
Red Leicester's a good cheese, but I also I'll say it. I like blue cheese as well.
I'll try blue cheese. Yeah,
bit of Stilton.
Stilton, yeah.
Oh, beautiful Stilton and mushrooms, especially if it's all melted.
What's that?
I think there's a clown outside. Don't you think the mic will have picked that up?
I don't know. I hope so. That was weird. It is at the window.
I just expected his face in the window. I would have run out of here like no one's business, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, God.
Maybe that was a sign to say, stop talking about cheeses, lads.
That's probably true.
We've got X-Files to talk about.
That is true. We should probably crack on. Anyway, we see a hard cut to a side of beef after we see these cows.
Oh, that'd come great with some Stilton.
It would have. Stilton. Yeah. And these butchers are cutting up the meat. They're packing it up as they're working in this factory. A siren goes off, and they all head off as this is the end of their shift. A man in a hard hat. You don't really know his name at this point. Is it the guy from later? I don't know if it's the same guy. I know he's wearing glasses, but I don't know if he's...
Which guy are you talking about?
The guy who ends up being the guy that they question.
See, I didn't remember seeing a guy. I just remember seeing the woman leaving for work. Yeah. That's the only bit I took away from it. Well, there was a lot of people there.
Yeah, there's a guy who says to her, see you tomorrow, Beth.
Oh, I didn't pay attention.
I don't know if that guy was the same guy as later. I really don't know. Because it didn't list him as... It lists him as man. So I was like... I don't know where to go. Anyway, a guy says to Beth, see you tomorrow, and she picks up stuff and leaves. We then see two kids, or a teenager and a kid, watching a news report on some police bust as Beth gets home. She greets the family, and this is where we realise these are her sons.
Yeah, it's a proper lovely family, this is.
Yeah.
Like, there's a little bit of attitude, but they all get along, and you can tell they all get along.
From their conversation, it's like quite... there's no, like, boundaries, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the way a family should be, like, they'll give each other a little bit of stick. Literally, it's a, 3-4 second clip, but it's a lovely family, and you're rooting for them right from the start.
Yeah, shame what happens though, isn't it? Yeah. She says she's going for a shower and tells them to get pizza. She goes into the bathroom and starts undressing.
No pepperoni on that pizza.
No pepperoni, yeah, she does make that clear.
I can imagine after working all day in a beef factory, the last thing you want is beef.
Yeah. I wonder if you worked at a beef factory all day, that you wouldn't want to be eating meat, you know, you'd want to be a vegetarian?
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
I mean, the thing is, it's the same with anything though, isn't it? It's like, you'd associate it with work. Even if it didn't bother you on a sort of morality level. Oh, God, you want to be away from it? Yeah. Give me a bit of lamb, you know what I mean? It's just...
That's the thing, like, as soft as it sounds, like, me sitting in front of a computer all day means I don't want to sit at a computer at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, yeah. Similar, quite similar. Anyway, she's in the bathroom and she's undressing. And then we see a shot of someone watching. Or we see
through like a peephole,
through like a little hole. We don't really see where they're watching from. We just can see them watching. And we see that like circle shot.
When I first saw it, I assumed it was the mirror because that's where she was facing. But they do cut to the mirror and you can't see any holes or anything like that. So I wasn't sure myself.
And we keep coming back and we see it's a man in glasses. We don't really get any more on this guy at the moment. The phone rings in the living room and the eldest the teenager runs and picks it up. And we hear him talking to somebody on the other line and he says he'll be 5 minutes.
Yeah, you assume it's like his mates or something like that outside.
That's what you guess anyway. He heads off. And then we cut to Beth on the phone. And this is 4 hours later and she says that he's still missing. She says, and she doesn't know who called him.
She's on the phone to the police, isn't she?
Yeah. We then cut to the woods, and it's daytime now. And we see a semi-naked Gary shivering and running away into the woods. He runs out into the road as a police car comes across him. and they just find him and he's terrified. And at this point, they come over to sort of console him. He turns around, and on his back is the words, "He is one."
Yeah, written in like magic marker pen.
I wasn't sure what it was at first, but yeah, they explain later it's basically
well, it's not. All I meant was it's not scarred into his body, but it's like obviously written on, but
like a pen, yeah. And then we get to the opening credits. So, what do you think of the opening?
Interesting. It was one of them I didn't really know where it was going.
Yeah, they throw a lot in the air, don't they? With this
whole episode, they're juggling a lot of balls storyline wise. They're trying to sort of... They throw a lot at you, and I feel like they're trying to divert your sort of expectations, but they do it one too many times for myself.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But yeah, it from the start, I didn't have a clue. There was one moment later on where I visibly sighed, but I'll let you know when I get to that.
I mean, I don't know what that would be. I'm quite interested now.
Well, I'm nothing if not a tease, Luke.
After the credits, we then cut to the X-Files office. Oh, also, the credits had nothing in them again.
No.
Week 3 update.
You're angry at these credits.
Yeah, week 3 update, still nothing. Not being rewarded here. We're at the X-Files office in Washington, D.C., which is the city.
It's not the state. The city isn't in the States. No, that's the thing, because they're both called Washington.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is mad. They're on opposite sides. One's on the East Coast and one's on the West. Very strange.
I just did a hand movement there. That's useless.
But yeah, just a little trivia for everybody. Not the same.
I feel like we should end that joke in the new year. This should be the last Washington, not Washington joke.
Are you sure?
I feel like we have to kill our darlings, and that is a darling of ours.
Should we take a moment to just mourn the loss of that joke?
Yeah. That's long enough mourning.
God bless.
God bless you, Washington, D.C., not Washington State.
Oh, last one.
Mulder's briefing Scully, and he's explaining about this guy, Gary. We find out his name. He's 16, and he starts listing his school and extracurricular activities. He's a big football player, or he's into sports.
Yeah.
And Scully asks what the words on his back mean. Mulder says that no one knows what that means. Mulder then explains what we just saw, basically. And then 12 hours had passed since he turned up again. And he doesn't have a coherent statement for those 12 hours.
Yeah.
Scully asks if this was some kind of sexual assault or if it was like a teenage prank. And Mulder says that the other victims have had to be sedated and hospitalized since their ordeals. So we now know that this is a serial case, basically. This has happened a lot.
And we did get that impression when we saw Gary coming out the woods. He wasn't being logical. He looked like he was scared to death.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what Mulder sort of insinuates, that the other victims were like, they was genuinely terrified, which is why they can't come up with a cohesive thought.
Yeah, yeah. Which we do see later on in the episode as well. So, and yeah, this is where he says that they're hysterical with fear, and he starts listing the other victims and where they're from, and they're all quite close to one another, basically, even if there are a few towns away. He says that the words on the back were written in black marker, like we said, and Scully asks what his interest is in this. It's like she's never met Mulder. Apparently, the sheriff thinks that these victims have all been possessed.
Sigh.
Oh, really?
Ghost story again. Oh, I mean, I know it doesn't turn out to be like
demon.
That. You know what? Anything like that, possession, ghost, I'm done with it with X-Files. And I know there's going to be more, but like, I've not seen a good episode with the ghost story just yet. So as soon as I heard this, and it doesn't turn out to be this, so I was happy about that. But as soon as I heard Poltergeist, I was just like, again, we're going to do this again. Luckily, it's not.
Yeah, it was different in the end.
It was good. It was.
We then cut to Delta Glen in Wisconsin, and the sheriff is driving them, and he says that they basically need to see this church, this something that he's calling the Church of the Red Museum, and he says that they follow a man named Odin. Hell of a name.
Yeah, it's a great name. Yeah. It actually turns out to be his name, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he changed his name, isn't it?
I'd imagine so. Yeah. No one calls their kid Odin. I might call my kid Odin.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah,
that's a strong name.
Strong name. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's gonna mess with the
god of gods.
The god of gods of the Vikings.
Yeah.
Of all the hardest,
baddest, kick-ass gods around,
historical figures around. Yeah.
Who do you think is the most badass god?
The most badass god,
like in all. If you take like the Roman,
the Almighty
and the Greek
Lord
and,
above.
Obviously.
But under that,
you take like the Roman, Greek, Norse mythology. Who if you had a big battle royale?
Yeah.
Who would win? Surely, Mars would probably be the favourite.
Yeah. But then you've got what's the Greek name for him now? It's Ares, isn't it?
It's Ares. Yeah, that's the god of war in Greek.
Yeah.
You got Apollo, god of sun. He's not really scary, is he?
No, the god of war is a pretty strong. That's a strong name.
Yeah.
Marine.
But then, of course, you've got Zeus.
Yeah.
Or
King of Kings.
Is it Jupiter?
I think it's Jupiter.
Yeah.
The biggest one.
I don't know. Yeah. And then you've got Thor and Odin. I don't know. It's very.
And then outside of that, you've got like the gods in like South American gods, and they are brutal.
I don't know anything about South American gods. I need to educate myself.
They just murder everything.
Is that like the god of sun and stuff like that?
Yeah, there's like gods of sun. I think there's like a Jaguar combat god and stuff.
Oh,
and it's like, it gets crazy, man.
Wow.
Gods of honestly, religion is really interesting.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I particularly do find Roman and Greek mythology very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Like, oh my days. They're so promiscuous, Luke.
Yeah, they got up to all. So actually, do you know, it was Greeks mainly. Romans were quite conservative.
Were they?
Yeah.
Well, if it is the Greeks, they didn't care whether it was their sister, their brother, their mother, their father. They just get up to all sorts.
They did.
And I don't condone that stuff.
Not brothers and sisters. That's
no.
too far, man.
What, you okay with mothers and fathers, though?
Yeah, well... No, what was it? I was listening to something. It was a podcast on like Roman... it's on British history.
Yeah.
But they're like... It's covering the Roman like occupation. And he was talking about one of the emperors at the time. And he was gay, basically. All the evidence points back to... I mean, they don't have an account of it because they're never going to publish that. But most historians believe that he was definitely gay.
Yeah, I hear a lot of emperors were like very... free and but promiscuous regardless of gender.
They were, but they were not meant to. Apparently, like a lot of like Roman like culture and like their religion and stuff sort of did push against that. So he sort of was never open with it. That's why it's not in like texts and stuff. And he did have a wife, but he used to hang around with a guy a lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is my friend.
Yeah. Which is like history's... I mean, Leonardo da Vinci did the same thing, didn't he? He used to always hang around with one guy, and it's like, come on, we know what's going on. I mean, understandably, back then, you'd probably be killed for coming out.
You can understand them, so...
I mean, anyway.
We've really gone off topic.
Yeah.
But... here's an interesting fact. I don't know whether I've said this on the podcast before, so excuse me if I have. Did you know... Okay, so I think I've told you this before, that Cleopatra, in her time in history, it's closer to us than the pyramids being built.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think's phenomenal, blows my mind.
Like, Egyptian history is like about 2,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. Right? The incredible thing is, did you know she was married to Julius Caesar?
Oh, was Caesar, was he? It was Mark Anthony, wasn't he?
Well, him as well.
Two? I didn't know that.
Honestly, like, it's like, I couldn't believe that they was even in the same time period.
Yeah.
The Roman Empire and Cleopatra. I could...
That's the thing, you just don't... Because they're taught separately, you think they're so apart.
You do. It's incredible. So
this is a completely different tangent, but again...
Let's just keep going.
Let's keep going on tangents.
How far can we get away from these subjects?
It's like that game where you click Wikipedia.
Yeah, we're just going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. There's... Do you know how they talk about like the pyramids and stuff? And there's the pyramids in South America, the square,
like Aztec.
What's it called? The
Chichen Itza.
No, not Chichen Itza. It's a different one.
I'm butchering this.
Chichen Itza, isn't it? That one is it?
Chichen.
Oh God. Yeah, there's one called like Texarkana or something like that. That's probably again. Probably butchering it completely. But anyway, everyone associates that with the Aztecs.
Yeah.
And believes that they built it.
The Mayans.
No one knows who built it. The Aztecs found it and just inhabited it. And everyone's like, well, where did that come from? Yeah. So, aliens, obviously.
Have you heard the... Oh, yeah, that's a good... You know what, I was going to keep going, but let's get back to this now. That's a good segue back.
What was it?
Did you know that... Did you know they're planning to take down Stonehenge for a railway?
That's fucking bullshit. Why would they do that?
I don't know.
It's been there for fucking thousands of years.
The listeners are waiting. We should get back to the show.
Okay, we'll get back. Okay.
Hey, Luke.
Yeah.
Should we talk about X-Files?
Yeah. The sheriff drives... the sheriff... Anyway, we've done that bit. Yeah, so the sheriff says that they're following a man named Odin, who apparently moved from California about 3 years ago. And Scully asks what Red Museum actually means. And the sheriff, who is Sheriff Mazarowski, says that they're all vegetarian, and they actually turned 500 cattle in this barn into their pets, basically. He says that they're calling this barn, or this cattle shed, a monument to barbarism. And the sheriff does actually say it's quite bold for them to move their church into the middle of what he calls cow country.
Yeah.
So
it goes completely against what they believe in. So it's tough crowd at the end of the day.
Yeah. But then again, if your message is to stop meeting and you've got to go right to the...
Go to the heart of the matter, yeah.
We then cut to the Church of the Red Museum as they pull up. And we see people dressed in white with red turbans on. And they go into... is it a turban? Is that right? And it's I always thought, I didn't know if that was a specific name for the
like the way you wear it. The way you wear it,
yeah.
No, it's definitely a turban.
But anyway, they head into this big barn, and Scully says that it seems unlikely that these people would be involved. The sheriff just says, he says, I won't say anything, just see for yourself. So they go in, and we see all these members sat watching a man give a service, basically.
Yeah.
And
I'll just let you know, I am going to refrain from telling jokes. I'm going to stay quiet for this bit, because I know this. I was watching this, and I saw this long sort of monologue, and I was like, Luke's got to wait all of this.
Well, this was 10 minutes in, and I won't tell you my full thoughts of the episodes until the end, but this scene alone painted a very bad picture for me. I hate this character. I hate him.
Just logistically.
Yeah, just for... Well, also because he's played by somebody who is a rapist, basically.
Is he?
Not in real life. Sorry, not to disparage the man.
Oh, God. What do you mean?
He plays, do you know in Shawshank Redemption, one of the sisters?
Oh, okay.
He plays the main one of those, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
He's also in Aliens as well. He's one of the Marines in Aliens.
You live and learn.
Yeah.
But anyway, I will stay quiet whilst you get through this. So
the sheriff says that this man giving the service is Odin. He sits at a PC, a personal computer. He starts typing. So yeah, I'll just read this verbatim.
Is that what PC stands for?
Yeah, personal computer. Yeah. You live and learn.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So as he starts typing, another woman starts reading what he's typing out, which I thought was weird. I thought initially we're gonna... Why did he do this? Because then he talks later. Sorry, I know I'm jumping ahead, but this bit really threw me.
It's a cultist thing, isn't it? It's that thing where, if you keep a level of mystery, people believe in your aura rather than...
Yeah.
The more people know about you, the more weakness you're going to show.
I always find this. People with good messages ruin it by being arseholes.
Well, you think of majority of sort of prophets, they have people telling their story. It's very rare that they're the ones telling the story. Yeah. So.
But anyway, she starts reading out his sermon, and he types out, "Today's a blessing from our Lord and Master, who awaits his flock in this time, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. 18 Earth years from the beginning of the new kingdom." Do you know what that is, the age of Aquarius and that? It's like the ending of
It's a pretty good song.
Yeah, it is a pretty good song.
When the moon is in the 7th house,
Yeah.
This is what the age of Aquarius is, and Jupiter aligns with Mars, then peace will guide the planets, and love will steer the sun. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius.
You joke, but that is pretty much bang on what it is.
I know, yeah. I told you.
It's like what? It's from a religion, isn't it? I don't know what.
I've got no idea. I just know
it's like a concept
song.
I know. What's it from? There's supposed to be like these ages we go through, and the age of the Aquarius is literally the last one before, as they say, they go into a new kingdom, and we're all reborn into a golden age, basically.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, we're still waiting.
I'm actually in Aquarius myself.
Oh, well, you're doing the shit before we go gold, apparently. sorry to put you on blast there. Well, anyway. She says, 18 Earth years from the beginning of the new kingdom. The guides speak through me today as messengers of the word, that we may be free from death and the passage into spirit. As the acceleration... That's right, and the acceleration continues... I
love how you think that I've wrote all this down. I skipped right past this.
I had a typo there, and I just doubted myself. Imagine if he did this. Like, that'd be.
Well, did you see how fast he was typing? There's no way someone types that fast without making a quick typo.
He's got to be good at touch type. You know what I mean? Like, he's practiced.
I don't believe... I mean, he's got better things to do with his time. Something's not right.
Something's not right.
Maybe it's just a video recording and he's just doing that thing he used to do as a kid.
He used to hammer all the keys.
Yeah, I can type really fast and you just hammer them.
Yeah, as you get like quality blah blah blah.
Yeah, but maybe if he's just like got a video already
It's a good idea, actually, yeah.
And then people were like, whoa, not only is he like a cult leader, fast typer too.
Yeah. I trust this guy. She says, as the acceleration continues, we, the enlightened, must bring the teachings of the skills for survival to mankind. And this is where Mulder starts to explain that these are walk-ins. And Scully asks what these are, and he sort of looks back at the congregation as they carry on speaking. And the reader continues, and at this point, the congregation themselves start repeating back to her. And they say, we, the second souls of the first bodies, bearers of the word, and keepers of the sacrament of a new enlightenment. And this is where Mulder explains what walk-in is. He says that they're believers in soul transference, enlightened spirits who have taken possession of another person's body. The speaker continues. Can you see my frustration? The speaker continues, blessed mission and toil, our struggle is transcendent, and your guidance, our guides will carry us towards the dawning of a new age. This is when Odin looks up at the crowd, smiles, and carries on typing. And he says, today we bear witness to 3 who do not believe, as the camera zooms into Mulder, Scully, and the sheriff. And he carries on, and the woman says, we encourage them to open their hearts and minds to our teachings, that they who slaughter the flesh slaughter their own soul and must be taught the way. That concludes the typing. It really annoyed me that this didn't even come into play in the entire episode.
This, apart from a throwaway line at the end,
yeah.
This group of people mean nothing to the storyline.
It's really irritating because I typed all this out with, this must have some serious plot significance. And it's just waffle.
They mugged you waffle. Right off, Luke.
I am so angry at this group. Like I said, they've got a good message. I'll hate them forever because of this.
You'll eat 2 bacon sandwiches tomorrow, won't you?
Gonna kill a cow. And Mulder looks at the sheriff as to go, ooh.
It's really preachy, isn't it? This whole thing, and they've got like this sort of brainwashed vibe about them as they're repeating words that he says. So yeah, you get this bad feeling from them, but I knew straight away it wasn't going to be them because they were hammering it home too hard. That's these were weird. Yeah, that's the thing. When it's too obvious that they're like you said a weird like sort of group, it can't be them because it's too on the nose. But anyway, we then cut to Beth Kane's house,
And Mulder and Scully are interviewing Gary, and he says he only remembers parts. He says that he was in the woods and he felt a spirit enter him. Mulder asks him to clarify, and he says that it must have been an animal spirit. And he says that something came over him.
How would you know what an animal spirit feels like? And how would you differentiate it to a human spirit?
I guess, I don't know, if you start, like, wanting to, like, walk on all fours, maybe that's, like, you got a dog spirit in you. Don't know.
Just a dog, immediately straight to dog.
Mm.
I feel like it's if you had animalistic nature.
Yeah.
So, like, you stood, like, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense, actually, with what they were saying later on.
Because if you look at, like, the fear side of things, where, I don't know, it's just a strange throwaway line that I felt like it was an animal spirit.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this that sort of doesn't tie back. It's just sort of...
But just think again, this line is purely in there to throw you off, because him saying animal spirit kind of makes you feel like, and they've already alluded to the fact that the congregation are sort of inhabitants of spirits of some sort.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to
just trying to throw you off a little bit.
Yeah, it could be. And he says, he reiterates that he doesn't remember who called him. Scully starts looking around the house as Mulder asks him about the Red Museum, and Scully starts seeing these family pictures as she runs into Stevie, who's his younger brother. She asks if he knows who he went out to see. And then we start seeing this mystery person again watching Scully now. The sheriff, they leave, and the sheriff starts saying that Gary's a good kid, basically, but something's changed. Mulder asks how the locals treat the Red Museum, if they're ever singled out. And the sheriff says there's tension, but they're mostly just avoided, which we see later on is definitely not the case.
Yeah.
So I think this sheriff definitely has an agenda against this group. But Mulder asks if he can recommend a good motel and a good place to eat. And the sheriff says that you've come to the best place for that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then we cut to Clay's Barbecue.
This looks like a good place.
It does look like a good restaurant,
yeah,
to be
I
fair.
wouldn't mind having a bite to eat here.
And we see a table full of food, and we see Scully chowing down on some ribs.
Yeah. Getting it all over her.
Yeah, she's got it all on her.
Is there any other way to eat ribs, though?
True.
Come on.
To be fair, ribs are messy.
Yeah, you've got to get messy, and that's the only way to enjoy them.
Pretty much.
Have you ever tried enjoying wings without trying to get sort of someone?
Sauce,
yeah,
just doesn't happen.
I see people doing. I'm like, you're not enjoying what you're eating there. Just get yourself dirty.
Go mental,
They provide wipes. That's what it's for.
Yeah, exactly. She says with ribs like these, the Church of the Red Museum has its work cut out for them. And then we get a lovely scene as Mulder wipes the sauce away from her lip. Man, this is the shipper's dream right here.
Yeah.
This scene.
She gives a little smirk as well.
Yeah, exactly. This relationship is definitely blossoming now. Ever since she's like sort of come back from death, basically. Then well,
absence does make the heart grow fonder.
It does. She asks again about walk-ins. And Mulder starts to explain that it's based on an old idea that if you're in despair and you die, you become open and vulnerable to inhabitation from a new enlightened spirit. He says that Abe Lincoln, Mikhail Gorbachev, and Charles Colson, Nixon's advisor, were all walk-ins.
Not Nixon, though.
Yeah. Scully asks, not Nixon? And Mulder says that not even they would claim Nixon.
I don't know what Nixon did, really. Was he crazy?
Something awful. Do you know what? Not as bad as Trump.
I'm ashamed to admit my history on presidents from the past. I'm not too aware.
I think the Watergate scandal and that was all something to do with money. I know Was
that Nixon?
Yeah, that was Nixon, yeah. I think we've mentioned this before that we didn't know exactly what it was, but I think it's something to do with like taxes and not.
Was Bill Clinton the one that had to apologise
for sex? Yeah.
But I'm not going to do an impression. But I think from the first two lines, I reckon you can tell it was going to be a good impression, but I'd only ruin it if I carried on.
You say that?
No, I've ruined it. I told you I should have left it. You challenged me to consider. Oh God!
I mugged you right off. Anyway, lovely bit of banter that they're having here.
I thought you were talking about us.
Not us, no. We don't have lovely banter.
That's where you went. Let's get back in. That was a lovely bit of banter. On with the show.
That's how I'll move on now. A transition. I'll pivot away from the joke. She asks if he believes the sheriff about these possessions, and he says he's not sure, but he does say it's a novel theory. Scully says that she got the creeps in Beth's house earlier.
She did. She did look at the mirror.
Yeah. So,
but she didn't see anything. She must have just, that feeling you get when you're being watched. You get that feeling in the back of your head, don't you?
Yeah, you always know. And we see one of the Red Museum followers walk past the window, and we can hear people heckling him, basically. So Mulder gets up and goes to investigate. Outside, this follower's being hassled by 3 teenagers, and Mulder flat just goes over and tells him to leave him alone, and tells him to go home. They start picking a fight with Mulder, and Scully comes over, and they see that she's got a gun.
Yeah.
And that sort of spooks the woman of the group. I didn't catch her name, to be honest.
No, I mean, to be fair, they're pretty. They're not really.
Yeah. The only one who is sort of of note really is the main guy,
Rick. Yeah.
Yeah. Which we now find out that he says he's going to call his dad, and his dad is the sheriff.
Oh dear.
So now we know that this Red Museum following is being harassed, and it's actually by somebody who
maybe not exclusively, but he is one of the people that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he isn't provoked. He just attack this kid for no reason.
Yeah, completely. I mean, to be fair though, saying that, it makes sense with some of the stuff that they say later. That old man says later about people getting meaner.
Yeah, it does.
So maybe it is just all because of this. Well, we'll find out.
We will find out.
The kids leave, and Scully says that it's hard to tell who's the villains in this town without having a scorecard. Sort of painting this picture that, there's no good guys or bad guys in this town. They're all just different opinions.
On a little bit more of a meta note, also painting the opinion that I don't know what's going on. We still haven't. We know what the actual issue is, and we've still not come to that yet. We've just been given 3 possible different scenarios as to what this could be.
Yeah. It was all over the place. Anyway, we then see these teenagers. They're listening to rock music as they pull up, and the girl gets out with Rick. Sorry, I forgot his name then. They kiss, and he basically drives away as he's dropped her off at home. She walks up to the house, and we hear a dog whimpering. And she goes over to the dog, who she calls Puppa Dog. Strange name.
Coming from the guy who calls them doggos.
That's not me.
It is you. I've heard you. I've seen it in your YouTube history.
That's not me. Coerced into this, okay.
Of course you are. Of course you are.
And as she goes to console the dog, someone attacks her from behind and sort of puts a handkerchief over her. That's where I thought it was. I mean, they tell you what it is later on. But it's basically is a type of chloroform, I guess. We then cut to the forest in the day, the same cut, and we see the girl who I found the name was Katie. She's walking around semi-naked in the forest again, and she sees these crows, and she starts freaking out at the crows, and one sort of just flies towards her face. It doesn't actually fly, but
these special effects are dodgy. Oh, they're so dodgy.
They're very...
it's very what's the word? You get the same. It's the same sort of feeling when you're on drugs.
Yeah.
What's that word?
Hallucinogenic.
Yeah. Very sort of out there.
Yeah.
And you've got bugs crawling from the ground and stuff like that.
And as she turns over with these bugs on her hands, we see on her back, she also has the words on there. We then cut to the Motor Lodge registration, where Mulder's getting some info from someone on the phone, who we later find out he's finding more information about Odin. And Scully enters and says that she doesn't have much on the girl from the earlier scene. She says that she has traces of an unspecified alkaloid in her blood, as well as a large amount of scopolamine. I believe that's how it's pronounced.
Yes.
Which Mulder makes note that that's a drug that they use for motion sickness. But Scully says with the amount that was in her blood, it would have been a very powerful anesthetic with hallucinogenic qualities. So that's sort of, you now understand why she was seeing all these things.
She also mentions it's used by Colombian gangs.
Yeah, for kidnappings. Scully then says that only a doctor or a pharmacist would be able to get it in large quantities. To which Mulder then gives Scully the information on Richard Odin, also called Doug Herman, his other name.
Dr.
Doug Herman, yes, as we find that he was a former member of the AMA, the American Medical Association.
Well, there's a perfect link. We know who's done it.
Yeah. Lock him up, throw away the key.
Episode done.
And he also left over questionable ethics, which again paints him in a bad light.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it?
We then cut to Richard Odin's house, and they arrive. The woman who was reading earlier on answers the door. This is where I realised he was from Shawshank, by the way. this very point. Odin actually comes to the door, and he speaks. I was really surprised. I thought he was going to be like
a mute,
or like somebody who's taking like a vow of silence.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. To be fair.
But he won't let Mulder and Scully in the house because they want to question him in the house. And they say that they'll go and get a warrant, and he says even if you get a warrant, he's not going to let them in, basically.
Yeah, on religious grounds.
Yeah, he says it's religious grounds because they're meat eaters, and he doesn't want to...
I wonder if this would hold up.
Yeah.
Because he's fairly certain that the courts wouldn't allow it to happen. But then in that case, couldn't, like, if, say, for example, I was a criminal, and I didn't want people searching my warehouse full of stolen goods, say... Couldn't I just say, well, you've all... I'll shave my head and go, oh, you've all got hair and I don't believe in hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's the thing.
Surely couldn't hold up.
Yeah. Scully even says that if you've committed a crime, you can't hide behind those rights. So maybe they fall away as soon as they can convict you of something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he asks if he's been accused of anything. And then we see all of his followers surrounding Mulder and Scully's car. And Mulder asks him to step outside, and he says that he's under arrest.
He's brave, to be fair, because this is quite intimidating, being surrounded by a cult.
The last time this happened, they were like some alien, like gender-changing people.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
So, I don't know why they would, they're the FBI agents, they're used to this kind of
I suppose, especially these two.
Yeah, true. We then cut to the police station, and they're questioning Odin about the scopolamine. To which he then asks them, are they aware of bovine growth hormones or the inhumane treatment of cows? So even here he's trying to get his agenda across.
Yeah.
Mulder just gets short with him and just tells him to answer the question. And he says he has heard of it, but he's never prescribed it or administered it. They ask if he's ordered it for others to do so, and he says no. Mulder asks if his religion prohibits revenge, to which he then says that the barbarians will one day be cleansed from the earth. And the sheriff just loses it at this point, and he says that he's done something to these kids, to which Mulder then sort of has to cool him down and take him outside.
He's very much hot-headed, this sheriff, isn't he?
And that comes to bite everyone later on.
Yep.
Mulder comes back in, and he says that he's got quite a knack for pissing people off. And the sheriff pops his head around again, and then
literally like 30 seconds later, and he's fine now.
Yeah, he's all right now. He's chilled out, and he says they've got a problem down the street. And then we cut to Clay's barbecue, and we see that the cults surrounded the restaurant, or they've blocked off the entrance, and they're sort of preaching. And the public are all heckling them, and we see the sheriff's son, Rick, get a bucket, and we don't see what it is, as he runs towards them and throws it all over the woman who's leading this preaching. And it's cow's blood. The sheriff loses it, grabs his kid and takes him away and gives him a bollocking.
Yeah. You know what? This is, just on a little tangent. It reminded me of a story, because you hear about this all the time, especially vegetarians against, like, people with fur coats and stuff like that. And you hear about it, but you don't, you think that's like, it's just, you know, they've ruined the coat and whatnot. There's actually a band that I've seen live once, and they're called the Soap Girls. And they're, I don't know how to explain them really. They're very much like, do it your own way. They pretty much perform naked, like in just like sort of underwear and like body paint and stuff like that. They believe that sort of like hippies, if you like, but like of the new age. Anyway, they was performing in a gig down in London a couple of years back, and I read a story. It actually worked in their favour because they got pretty famous because of this story. But the owner of the bar ended up throwing a bucket of blood over them. Right? Just to sort of go against sort of what they was... Because, like, obviously they was topless and stuff like that, and go against what they was doing. And these girls, the blood got into their eyes, or it almost blinded one of the girls, ruined all of their equipment, like... And they carried on playing the rest of the gig. And I was just like, fair play. But it just reminded me of that story, because it just seems so trivial. But, like, it is, like, can you imagine that happening? That's got to be devastating. You don't think about the damage it can do to you.
Because blood's, like, it's one of the hardest things to clean out.
Well, it's viscous, you know what I mean? It gets into your eyes. It's like, there's pictures of them online. Honestly, if you have a look, there's pictures of them. And it's like, her eyes are just bloodshot and all of her equipment's destroyed.
I wouldn't even think of that. It's just, like, to me, it'd just be like, well, it's like water, I suppose.
Yeah, you've just ruined a coat. But honestly, like, apparently it was one of the most horrifying experiences of their life. And they carried on the rest of that gig covered in blood. So fair play.
Yeah. I don't have a tangent to go off on.
No, that was a really strange story. But that's what I thought of when I saw this, because it can be so throwaway, but it's such a horrifying thing to do to another human being.
It is. Yeah, it's a really harsh thing to do.
Yeah.
As the sheriff takes his son away, we see a man watching on, and he sort of beckons Scully over, sort of just does the head nod thing.
I love this one because he doesn't do it once, he does it twice. Because Scully looks over and he does the head nod, and Scully doesn't know what he means, so she looks over again. He's like, doesn't do the head nod.
I love this guy's character because he literally in the script has no name. No. He is literally there for exposition.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm here to explain the plot to you guys.
This is the story. I'm not going to tell you how I know.
Yeah.
I just know.
I just know it. Don't you worry. Scully heads over and he asks if they're FBI. And he says he's got something to show them. And he drives them out to a farm. And as they're driving, he's just silent in the ride, which, I mean, you could have at least given a bit of friendly chatter.
Yeah, put the radio on.
Yeah. Anything. That's awkward, isn't it? Have you ever done this, sat in a taxi and it's been silent?
Oh, in a taxi, I don't mind. I like it.
Sure.
I like if I'm going to work in a taxi in the morning, I like to sort of just close my eyes and just relax.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm not a fan of chatting.
See, I don't like chatting. That's why it's perfect if they just put the music on.
Yeah, put the radio station on.
Yeah. The best taxi I ever had, the guy was like, do you mind if I listen to my headphones? I was like, yeah, I'll do the same. Let's just go. Anyway, he gets out and he says that this land belonged to his grandfather, and it has done since 1890. And he says that he died when he was 82. He says that after that, him and his dad worked the land, and he actually sold it, and he sold it for 80 times what his grandfather paid for it. They ask why he sold the business, and he said that the business has now changed. He says that there's too much competition. He says that you used to be able to get by with 50 milk cows, now you need 500. He says that you used to be able to pasture cows, but now they're all in pens and they're grain fed. And Scully just asks from this, what do you want to show us? And he points over to some men who are injecting a cow. They've got them in these like metal pens. And he says that they're injecting them with BST, which is bovine somatotropin. Got a lot of chemicals in this episode. And Scully mentions that this is a genetically modified growth hormone. And he says with this, a milk cow gives 10% more milk, or a beef cow gives more beef. He doesn't say the percentage on this one, which...
Doesn't know, does he?
Doesn't know. He
doesn't know anything, this guy.
Just guessing. And he says it's changed a whole lot of things in this town. And he says that the thing in town today, this throwing the blood over it as an example. He says that people are meaner. and he even says that there's been more rapes, just out of nowhere. Just brings that one up. Yeah.
7 rapes by high school boys.
Yeah. And he says that this growth hormone is to blame for the problems in the woods. But Scully says that can't be possible. These hormones are FDA approved, and the man scoffs and he says, "Who's approving this? The government."
Yeah, did you see Mulder's face as well?
Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, my man."
Just a little smirk.
And at this point, one of the guys who's injecting the cow turns around, and we see that this guy's wearing glasses. It's
the creepy guy?
It's the creepy guy behind the wall. So what's his deal? We then get
pervert.
Oh yeah. We then get to the weirdest scene, in my opinion, of this episode.
Oh no, this was the best scene. This is so funny. It shouldn't be funny, but it was hilarious.
2 men died. We see 2 men who are flying over the town in a small aircraft, and he says that they're losing oil pressure, Doc. And he makes sure that he calls him Doc.
Yeah.
And he says they won't be able to make the airport. They're going to just have to try and land it here. As he realises that they're in a forest and plows it straight into some trees.
It's like, we're going to have to try and land it. Oh no! He just dive bombs into the ground.
Yeah, man, this guy would be a great Messerschmitt pilot, wouldn't he?
The biggest explosion you've ever seen. It was just so comical.
Yeah, I understand why they had to do it, because they had to place evidence there, but it was such a weird way to do it.
I know, it's so strange.
I don't know, yeah. The next day we see at the crash site there's firemen and the police digging around. Mulder and Scully are looking around too, and the sheriff says that they don't know who the pilot is. We don't care. But the other body is Dr. Gerald Larson, and he says that the Dr. Larson delivered his kid, and he's the local doctor in the area. And he shows them something else, and it's a briefcase with a hell of a lot of money in.
Yeah.
And it's also got some other stuff in there. They find a wallet with chemicals, with a vial in it, or it's empty, but it used to have chemicals in.
Yeah.
And the sheriff says that the doctor was a good guy, so he doesn't know what this is all about.
Any guy carrying a briefcase full of money, I'm willing to bet is not a good guy.
Yeah, they've done something.
Yeah. Just put it in your wallet.
Yeah.
Or in a bank account, maybe.
Scully wants to do some analysis on this chemical and find out what it actually is. And then we see them back at the motor lodge. Scully's talking to someone on the phone, and Mulder comes in and says that all of the victims in the town were all delivered and treated by this doctor. So now we're getting it all tied together by this magic evidence that fell out of the sky.
Literally fell out of the sky.
Yeah. And apparently there were some printouts in the case. I didn't see these, but apparently they're in there. Of credit card numbers and shipping orders. And he says that the credit card numbers all correspond with the victims' families.
Yeah, a credit card within that family.
Yeah. And Mulder says that maybe he was tracking them with credit card payments and stuff, like how you track like a card's movement.
Yeah, especially if it's been stolen.
Yeah. And Scully says that they won't be able to get these results from the vial until tomorrow. Scully asks if Mulder thinks that the chemical was bovine growth hormone. But Mulder's not convinced because it doesn't seem to add up. And they both seem confused by all this.
Yeah.
It's the first time, actually, that Mulder's not really had a solid opinion.
To be all through the episode, he doesn't. But again, I don't think that's a case of Mulder not knowing. I just think it's a case of the writers, the writer of this episode. It's so convoluted. Is it convoluted?
Convoluted.
Convoluted. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. That it's just a little bit all over the place. So you can't have Mulder knowing what's going on and still try and throw these 3 theories around. It doesn't work. So they're trying to make sure that none of the main characters know what's going on, so that you're still guessing. Yeah. But it just doesn't. I don't think it works in this episode. I just think it's all over the place a little bit because, like, the Red Museum, it's a thrower. Like, they could have done this whole episode without them. It wouldn't have made a difference.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have made a difference.
They literally only need them for the end.
Yeah.
No, I think they could do that with something.
But even in the end, really, I mean, it's basically a control group, isn't it?
Yeah.
It ends up being a group that wasn't infected to see the difference.
Yeah.
Well, they could have done that without anyone.
Did you need to even mention it?
No.
That's
or just, there's vegetarians in town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just,
I don't know, yeah.
It just seemed like they was trying to subvert your expectations constantly, unnecessarily, in this episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. We then go back to this cattle farm from earlier, where they were injecting the cows, and we see some of the cult going into the woods. And the guy with glasses says that he'll see the other guy who was with him in the morning. And he drives away, and another car drives past, and it's driven by the crew cut man.
I didn't recognise him when he first drove past.
Yeah.
I only recognised when Scully recognised later.
I sort of thought
he's a very generic looking guy in my defence.
Yeah, he's not very like. Then again, he's a perfect guy. Hey,
for this job, yeah.
Do you know what? He's got it perfect. All these agents were in black suits. This guy just turns up.
This guy's perfect for it. Yeah,
looks normal, wears a normal clothes,
gets the job done.
Yeah. Also, the credits listed him as the cleaner.
I have heard the cleaner.
Yeah, as another word.
As a word used for him.
I think maybe these characters where they've got just like the cigarette smoking man, I feel like they just latch on to anything that they're called because they don't have a specific name.
But you know what? The script always gives them the easy name. I think Cancer Man and the Cleaner is so much easier to remember than Crew Cut Man and Cigarette Smoking Man.
True.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're a bit interchangeable, I suppose, with man being at the end of the
Yeah, exactly,
so. But anyway, the guy driving past in the glasses looks a bit spooked by this guy. But the Crew Cut Man drives up, gets out of his car, and the other man greets him, just friendly. So all seems nice. Then gets immediately shot dead.
Yep.
Crew Cut Man is ruthless.
He is a very familiar scene to us.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that too dissimilar to the way Deep Throat died.
Exactly. Yeah. And we even see that scene later on to parallel it. So
it looks very similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Even that.
Mulder and Scully are visiting Beth Kane's house, and Beth says that Gary's not in, but they say that they just want to speak to Beth anyway. They explain about Dr. Larson, and they ask if anything was strange about the meetings with him. And she says, no, not really. Gary was never sick.
Yeah, that's strange.
That's probably strange, yeah. She says that Larson gave them vitamin shots, and he says that he used to do this for a lot of the kids.
As a preventative measure.
As a preventative measure. Mulder asks if he's ever visited another doctor, and she says no, but Jay, who's her husband, wanted to. He was concerned that Gary wasn't growing, and because he wanted him to play college football. Mulder notices, this is where Mulder's looking around the house, and he notices like a light sort of emanating from the mirror. Yeah,
this is sloppy from that guy leaving the light on, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. What an idiot. He notices this hole, and he starts looking at it basically, and starts passing his hand past it. She says that 7 years ago, this is back to Beth again. She says that 7 years ago there was an accident with a machine at the packing plant. And that pretty much just spells out he died.
Yeah.
The most throwaway sort of, it's just, he's dead.
Well, there was another way to look at it, which was Gary's dad didn't agree with having those shots.
True.
And this guy's involved in the packing plant, so you could assume that maybe he was murdered.
I didn't even think of that, but that makes a lot more sense,
because
actually.
He was the only one opposing it, and then the only guy opposing the shots suddenly gets into an accident.
True. That is true. I didn't even think of that, to be fair, but that makes a lot of sense. But Mulder calls her over and basically shows her this hole in the wall, and she doesn't have any idea what it was. No. We hard cut to Mulder smashing a mirror.
I assume he got permission first.
I imagine so, but it just looks like he goes, look, smashed the mirror. But it is lucky that he does this, because he reveals a massive hole in the wall cavity, and we see inside that there's a camera,
videotapes,
and boxes of videotapes. Oh, imagine finding this in your house.
Ugh.
It just would
horrific every time you've been in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Oh.
To be fair, it'd be horrific seeing that footage. Me in the bathroom. Poor guy.
I mean,
Seen that.
She's worried about her children, but no, yeah, you jest, you make fun.
Yeah, well, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. As a wise man once said. We then see these teenagers again and the sheriff's son drinking some beers, listening to some rock again. These rebellious teens, and we see a man approaching through the trees. One of the teenagers goes off to go take a leak, and the man in the glasses appears and chloroforms the sheriff's son again.
Yeah.
Not again, but he's doing it again to someone else. Yeah. The other team gets back and notices that he's missing. We then
you skipped over one of the best lines of the show.
Oh, why would you say?
One teen turns around to Rick and says, "What's he?" I need to drain the lizard.
Drain the lizard, yeah.
And he just looks at him. And Rick, as much of a prick as he was all episode, he said exactly what I was thinking, which was, "What? Do you want a medal? Like, why did he just turn? He just turns around to him. I need to drain the lizard." Yeah. He thought he was being proper cool, didn't he?
About taking a piss.
I know, yeah.
What is this guy? Yeah. Anyway, we then cut again to the day. And this is where I think, we're going to see this guy stumbling around in the forest again.
Nuh-uh.
Nope. The police are surrounding something, and the sheriff arrives. He comes over to what we assume is his boy, and he's on his front, and he's got the word on his back again, and he flips him over, but he's dead.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's been shot in the head as well, because he's got this like red mark.
Yeah, like a bullet hole straight in the forehead.
I do love when like TV shows that aren't very gory try and do like people being shot in the head.
Oh yeah, it's so clean.
Yeah. There's just I can't even imagine what it would do. Anyway, we then see the crew cut man leaving the woods, and he goes to his car. He's got a gun, and he puts the gun in the boot of his car. So we can only assume that the crew cut man is doing his job as the cleaner and cleaning up this mess. Now there's suspicion on all of these teenagers.
Yeah.
So we then see Mulder and Scully, who are driving to the police station, and they're reviewing a picture of this guy with the glasses, and they say his name's Gert Thomas. It says he owned the building that Beth was staying in, and he used to run a daycare centre there. Yeah. So it starts getting into this really creepy vibe.
Well, this was another storyline that I didn't really get, because it goes nowhere, and it almost doesn't confirm it. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I just wasn't watching it properly, but the way it seemed to suggest that this, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, it seemed to suggest that this man was a paedophile.
Yeah. And
then all of a sudden, when they realised he hadn't done anything, they just sort of got friendly with him and then just breezed past the subject.
Bigger fish to fry, apparently.
Well, I'm just wondering, did you get the same suggestion as me, that this guy was a paedophile?
Yeah, that's my assumption, that he was like a pervert, like filming people and kids.
Yeah, especially the kids.
Yeah.
But then it's like, they all seemed disgusted by him until they realised he didn't do it, and then it was like, oh, well, as long as you didn't murder anybody. I was like, well, no. Yeah. So I'm wondering whether I watched it wrong and maybe he just liked kids too much, but like...
No, I'm pretty sure the implication is that he's a paedophile. I think they just... Their job is to catch this killer. They're not bothered about the...
Do you remember the Simpsons episode last week?
Yeah.
Where you had Mulder saying that one quote where there's an innocuous, like, sci-fi thing. And Scully's like, there's this really serious case. And the FBI aren't concerned about things like that. That's exactly what's happening here.
Like, well, leave the police.
He's a paedophile. Like, deal with him. You've got him there.
Anyway...
I'm surprised they approached a subject like this, if I'm honest. Especially when they didn't need to. It's not a big deal.
They literally just, like, threw it in there for no reason. They could have just said... If they'd have left that daycare line out, they just said, he's been filming families in there for years. Like, you mean, like... he's
studying them.
Yeah, what a perv.
You could have just had that booth be where the doctor goes to study the people that he's put the vaccine in.
Maybe that's what he is doing? Or I don't know.
That's what I thought was... I read this wrong.
Yeah. I don't know.
But he keeps going on about how he loves the kids, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he's a paedophile, and what a weird throwaway character to put in here.
Yeah. Oh, Gert the pedo. Anyway, I digress. They're driving to the police station to try and where they're going to interview him, and they drive past a car, and in this car is Crew Cut Man. It doesn't have any it doesn't sound as scary when you say it like that, does it? Crew Cut Man. And Scully says that she knows that face.
Yeah, they lock eyes for a few seconds, don't they?
Yeah. But you can tell that she hasn't quite figured out where she knows it from.
Still, at this point, I still didn't know who he was.
True. We then see them interrogating Gert, and they ask him about the video library, especially the ones with the little boys.
See how weird this is?
This is weird, but also this line, because the way Mulder says it, if you take it out of context, it sounds like Mulder's really interested in videos about little boys. I would love to see the quote. Do you know those out of context Facebook pages? Like, Mulder! Gert says that he's a sick man, and Mulder says that he's not sick. He's done this for years. And Gert says that he didn't mean to hurt anyone. Mulder asks if he kidnapped the kids, and he says that he did, and he asks if he'll confess, which he agrees to. He'll confess to the kidnappings, but he never murdered Rick.
He just took them into the woods and took all their clothes off.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they're giving this free pass.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming they don't. I'm assuming he goes to prison.
Yeah.
Why are they not?
Maybe that's for the local police to deal with. Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
They just seem way too blasé about the fact that they've got a paedophile in front of them. I'm not going to stop stressing this enough because it's so weird.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It was a weird plot thread to just sort of dangle out there. Anyway. Mulder presses him and he asks him if he kidnapped the kids and wrote on their back. As he starts showing him these pictures, so he shows him the picture of Rick dead, and he looks shocked and he says that he loved the kids. Mulder asks again about if he's done this, and he says he did it. He kidnapped them because of what they'd become.
Yeah, it became monsters, he says.
Yeah, because of Dr. Larson's tests. And then Scully starts having a flashback, and she remembers now at this point where she saw Crew Cut Man's face before. She has a flashback to Deep Throat's death. And Scully...
Well, she's straight out the room, doesn't she?
She has to be excused and just leaves.
She's got bigger priorities now.
Yeah. Mulder asks about the tests, and he says that the kids were guinea pigs. He says that he was inoculating the cattle with something, and someone was paying him a lot of money to do it. And he said didn't know what it was until afterwards, after all those rapes. Is what he says. He says Dr. Larson told his boss that he felt responsible for all that the kids had done. And he says Dr. Larson wasn't involved in the kidnappings, but he didn't care about the kids like he did.
Is the point of this story, let me get this straight, is the point of this story that they tested this substance on the kids before going to the cows to infect the town?
I think it's sort of a test of both, because they're testing directly on the people, then also on the cows to try and see if it spreads to
and that's
people.
why they're called to the control group to see the difference.
I think that's the point of it, yeah.
And the kids that were initially tested on became violent, and this is where the paedophile comes in to give his form of justice.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous storyline. I'm only just realising how ridiculous this is.
Scully re-enters and says that she thinks he didn't kill anyone. And she says, they go outside and she says that they have the toxicology reports, and they couldn't really identify it, but it was a synthetic corticosteroid with an unidentified amino acid. And she says that it's purity control.
Yeah, here we go. This is interesting.
Okay, which is... This episode seemed to ramp up and get me more interested in the last 10 minutes than the entire episode did.
I agree with that because it had the mythology, and the thing is, Crew Cut Man sort of gets lost in this episode as well, which is a shame because he was a big
especially
big villain,
especially with what happens to him as well.
Yeah,
I thought, but we'll get to that bit when we in a second. But yeah, she says it's purity control, which is a tie back to the finale of the last series,
the other Maya Flask.
Yeah, Mulder at this point is incensed. And Scully says that the doctor was inoculating these kids with antibodies derived from a possible extraterrestrial source. And Mulder just flat says it's alien DNA.
Yeah.
Scully cautions him to not be rash, basically, and says that it's not conclusive. But Mulder asks if it was the same substance as is in the Erlenmeyer flask, to which he says yes. And Mulder at this point feels like he's got a bite, basically.
Yeah.
Like this, they've been experimenting here. They need to find out more.
But he also thinks the crew cut man's cleaning up after his mistakes.
Yeah.
So he's got a chance to catch this guy now.
Basically, yeah. And Scully basically explains about crew cut man as well to him to try and explain what happened and who he was. Mulder thinks that crew cut man is now going to go after the kids, so they split up. She goes to go get the sheriff, and he goes to the apartment where Gary is. And he also says he wants him alive. So we then cut to Beth Kane's house, and the car arrives. It's Mulder. And he tells Beth that they need to leave as more police start arriving. Mulder starts explaining about the credit cards. He tells the sheriff to get every family who was related to them to get packed up. And the sheriff asks, where are we taking them? And then we cut straight to Richard Odin's house.
I like this. His little twists. I did like this.
That they're all sort of brought together at the end.
He and all like these sort of enemies sort of band together at this point. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's I think it really hones in the fact that there's a much bigger threat at play.
Yeah.
Which I think was what the point was. And maybe that was the whole point for the episode, but I don't think it was very executed very well.
Yeah, it's not the best way of doing it, I think. But yeah, Mulder explains to Odin that he needs help, and he says that he explains that he could help save some kids' lives.
And he agrees.
Yeah.
It's important to note that.
We then cut to the Church of the Red Museum, and we see all these families in the church, and they're all separate from the followers. They're sort of keeping their distance and staring at one another. And Scully asks where Mulder is, and the sheriff says that he wanted to keep the kids safe, but he thought that this crew cut man, was going to be somewhere else. And then Scully realises at this point he's gone off solo.
Yeah.
We then cut to the JASD beef plant again. And Mulder arrives and he starts creeping in with his gun.
The loudest footsteps in the world.
Yeah, it's always the case, and it like anytime somebody's sneaking around in like a TV show, they always overdub them with really loud footsteps. Yeah. But anyway, it's dark inside, and there's a liquid on the floor, which we find out is gasoline or petrol.
Yeah.
Mulder starts following this trail, and he goes into a meat locker. This is such a classic sort of action film setup of like. It's either action films or horror films where they always end up in like a meat locker.
Yeah,
it's like nothing's
well,
going to go well.
Not even a meat locker. It's always that setup. So I don't know how to explain this via audio, but like imagine pillars, rows of pillars, and it's always that setup because it's so difficult to find your way around like a maze. But it's just like think of immediately I thought of like iRobot. Do you know?
Yeah.
And there's so many. I think there's a Roman film as well where they do the same thing.
It's sort of a classic shot where it's because they can hide things and stuff. Yeah, it's but yeah, this always reminds me of like a horror films. I've seen it in so many where they're just sneaking down and then the murderer jumps out behind them.
Yeah, definitely.
And at this point, we do see the murderer emerge from behind a dead cow.
Yeah.
And he's unaware of Mulder at this point. Mulder pulls his gun and tells him to stop. And he just legs it. He doesn't. No potency whatsoever in his words as he just legs it away. Mulder follows him, and he starts crouching on the floor to try and see if he can see his feet. And as he gets up, he gets kicked straight to the floor. His gun goes flying, and Crew Cut Man runs again. Mulder chases him, but as he gets to this door, Crew Cut Man locks him in. Crew Cut Man gets a lighter out, ready to light this sort of flame.
Murder Mulder.
Yeah, basically, but Scully's behind him. She's got a gun, and she's got the sheriff and a load of police backing her up. So we've got him. We've caught him. We're finally going to find a bit more about this mystery. they tell him to put the lighter down, and he just sort of smirks and goes to light the actual flame. We cut to Mulder's face on the other side of the door and just start hearing gunshots.
Yeah.
And then we cut to the sheriff, who's just unloaded his pistol into him, basically.
It's a very emotional move. And I feel like he gets like this sort of bad rep from everyone, but essentially he has just saved Mulder's life.
Yeah.
Because this guy was going to light the fire.
It is true. I kind of thought this was a bit of a lame death for Crooked Man.
I thought he was going to be the big bad for a couple of seasons at least.
I thought, or at least this season, you know what I mean? Like, he would have a few more appearances. We've seen him twice and he's dead now.
Yeah.
So it's weird that they killed him off so early.
But you never know, they might have had different plans, especially with, like, X coming in and stuff like that. It depends how people take to characters, and if they decided halfway through the season to go a different route, you need to tie up that loose end.
Yeah, that is true.
But yeah, it is a shame, because like the way he handled himself in the other Maya Flask episode, he just looked physically and sometimes even mentally a little bit sharper than Mulder, always one step ahead.
Yeah.
And so that's what it gave him an interesting edge, because you thought he was going to foil Mulder all the time. And in the end, it just didn't end up being that way.
Got shot by a normal police officer.
Yeah.
Basically. And yeah, we see Mulder gets out and he's pissed off at this, that they've lost him. And he tells everyone to get out. We then see Crooked Man dead on the floor. And then we start hearing Scully's report, which he files as XWC060 361.
Nice.
Don't know if that'll be any important.
I don't think it will.
This, but hey-ho. Yeah, we got it.
Hey-ho.
Hey-ho. She says that they still don't know Crooked Man's identity. There's no records of him whatsoever. They can't find immigration status, marital status, anything.
No.
And she says it's doubtful anyone will come forward to ID the body. We then cut to see the families inside the Church of the Red Museum. And she goes on to say that the inoculant was an unstable antibody of no known biological origin. And she says that the serum was synthetic and it degraded too quickly to analyse. She says afterwards, after the treatments, all the children started getting a flu-like symptom.
Yeah.
So you could tell that it's sort of wearing off now.
Yeah.
And she also mentions at this point that none of the Red Museum contracted this flu, and she thinks that they were being used as the control group. So again, this was their...
That's what we spoke about earlier.
Yeah, this was the point to them being in it. She says that the shipping manifestos and the briefcase didn't have enough information to track on it. And there's been a quarantine established to monitor the beef, basically to see if anybody else has been infected. The FBI investigation is at a standstill, which is typical.
Yeah, that's what always happens.
Yeah. And the old man from earlier in the episode is seen in the town, and he sort of smiles and drives away into the town. And then we end the episode. So,
very strange episode. Yeah. Very strange. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we've stopped and talked a lot about the episode halfway through. So, much the same feelings. I just thought it was a little bit sort of too much going on, and I was a little bit disappointed with the way the Crooked Man was handled.
Yeah.
And that was my main takeaway from this episode. I don't think it was a bad episode. Yeah, it certainly wasn't bad. I mean, we've seen bad episodes, and it certainly wasn't bad. It felt like you could take one or two elements away and have a really good story, hone in on that story, and they just decided to go with a few too many different details.
Yeah.
You?
I kind of found the episode to be quite boring, to be honest. Like, I don't know if it was just because the plot was all over the place, so it just didn't hook me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt like it was just plodding along. Like, like you said, it was an okay episode. It wasn't bad. I'm not considering it a bad episode, but it was just like...
It's a solid 5 out of 10, isn't it?
It was a slog to get through, it felt like. And yeah, I really thought we'd see more of Crooked Man and more of this sort of group.
Yeah.
And it seems like we've killed him off. Now we don't have Deep Throat, so that sort of plot line is done, I guess.
Yeah,
so
which is a shame, isn't it?
Yeah. It just seems to have wrapped too many things up from that.
That could have been a season finale. Mulder finally getting the Crooked Man and avenging Deep Throat. It could have been.
That would have been a better solution. at the moment, he just got killed by some nobody sheriff, basically. Yeah. No offense to the guy. But, like, yeah, it just seemed to happen.
I think the payoff was supposed to be, you know, he wanted revenge for his son.
Yeah,
but I don't feel like you knew the characters well enough
to care
about that. Thing, like, because they had so many different stories. Like, we saw Rick twice, and one of them, his mate was telling him that he wanted to drown the lizard or whatever it was.
The other time you've thrown blood on people, it's like, we're meant to be sympathetic for this guy. Exactly. I understand that he was, like, experimented on, and that's the reason why, but
you just don't get enough time to see that.
Yeah, so, yeah, not a great episode, but not a bad one, I thought. So that was the end of the episode, so we might as well get into
Luke's production notes.
We start off this week. The original draft of Red Museum functions as a crossover episode with the CBS show Picket Fences, an idiosyncratic CBS drama that ran from 1992 until 1996 and was set in the fictional Wisconsin town of Rome. It was actually meant as a crossover.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah.
That would explain a hell of a lot, because it would explain why a lot of the characters are in there. Interesting. Okay.
The idea came about when David E. Kelley, the series creator of Picket Fences, and Chris Carter, as we know, were talking in a parking lot. A plot. Plot. That's what I call it. About how interesting it would be to have Mulder and Scully visit Rome. Kelley and Carter started to plan out ideas, agreeing that unlike traditional crossovers, the two shows would air their own episodes featuring characters from the other series. However, CBS vetoed the crossover idea. Executive producer Robert Goodwin said of the experience, "I spent days on the phone with producers of Picket Fences. We spent days organising our schedules. Then at the very last minute, of course, we found out that no one had told CBS. And they said, forget it. We're having enough trouble on Friday nights without publicising the X-Files. It's too bad."
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, I think the plug was pulled as a lot of it was already done by the sounds of it.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense what our problems
if they had to rewrite stuff, basically, because they had
to fit it in.
Yeah, exactly. The Picket Fences episode, originally intended to cross over with the X-Files episode, was called Away in the Manger and aired the week following Red Museum. While every reference to Picket Fences was purged from the X-Files episode, the Picket Fences episode contains a few subtle references to the happenings in Red Museum, including a mention of Dr. Larson. So, if you're a hardcore fan, you can go and check out that episode, I guess, to get a little nugget. Producer and writer Glenn Morgan was disappointed with how the crew cut man was killed off in the episode, saying, "My feeling is that to bring this guy back, his presence should have been better developed, and he's shot off screen. I thought, geez, this is the guy who killed Deep Throat, who the audience loved, and it kind of tossed away. The episode just seems like half of one thing for a while, then half of something else. I think there was a curious choice. I think that there was a curious choice for Chris Carter. He wanted to take a real left turn, but I'd rather have seen a whole episode about that guy showing up and Mulder getting back at him."
How fascinating is that? Yeah. It's pretty much exactly what we've said.
Yeah.
Because, okay, I know you get the notes together, but I don't read these notes before. No. This is I'm with the listeners, and I listen to this firsthand, and that's fascinating because that's pretty much different wording, but pretty much exactly our issues with the episode. Yeah. That's fascinating.
It's nice to know that even the producers know the problems of stuff.
Yeah, it's like nice to know that we know what we're talking about as well. And we're not just blagging the
lot. Morgan's writing partner, James Wong, disliked the episode, saying, I think that was one of the most confusing episodes I've ever seen. It had some really neat ideas in it, but I don't really think it pulled it together finally.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Ladner, British Columbia served as a location for Delta Glen, while the beef processing plant was shot in a facility in Cloversdale. Local employees, as the latter, were even used as extras in the butchering and cleaning up scenes. And the episode is I'll not read that one. Anyway.
What?
No, it's not really a spoiler, but it sort of hints at stuff that might happen in later episodes.
Okay, yeah.
So it's better to not read that.
Leave that one off.
I just saw in the later episodes, and I was like, no. Because I collect them all together, but I don't read them fully until I get to it.
Okay, anyway. That was good. That was fascinating. I enjoyed that.
I think it really does work us doing this at the end because it makes us not look like we're just robbing everyone's ideas.
And these production notes, they're growing on me, Luke. I'm enjoying these.
See, do you know what it needed? Just this change in time slot, basically.
There you go. That's all it was. I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Should we do a little bit of feedback?
A little bit of feedback?
A little bit of feedback.
Yeah, I think we should do some feedback. We've got quite a bit, actually, because we didn't do any last week, obviously, because it was a Christmas episode. And before that, we've had sort of like a 2-week break, haven't we? So we'll
just grab a few.
Yeah, just
grab a few selections and see what we've got, read them out.
Cool. Yeah, so I'll jump in first.
Because we always reply to everyone on Twitter anyway, or Twitter, email, whatever.
Yeah. So I'll just grab one that we had. One of our regular listeners, Kathy, was talking about the One Breath episode, and she had a response to that from a Joni Diego, who basically said that this was just a beautiful episode for both Mulder and Scully. Scully between life and death, and Mulder allowing himself to feel his pain and talk to Scully in her coma. Love this whole arc, beginning with Dwayne Barry and Ascension.
Yeah, it is a great arc.
Yeah.
I feel like some of the later episodes are going to suffer. Like the last couple of episodes, I feel like they're suffering because of how good the earlier episodes were, because they was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Pretty much the first 6 episodes. Like there was a few, but you can brush aside it because they were so good. Mm-hmm. That's great. That's superb. We've got a couple more tweets. We also got a tweet from Alpha. I'm going to apologise. I don't know whether I'm not going to even try and attempt the last name because I don't want to offend.
It's a new listener as well, or a new person getting in touch with feedback.
Got in touch. She sent us a few tweets. She mentioned that Blood is one of the few episodes that she didn't like. I think we're both in that camp.
Yeah, definitely.
She goes on to say she watched it when it aired, was mad about it. Watched it again when she watched the whole thing, didn't get better. Watched with the boyfriend a couple of years back. That's it, won't watch again. I can understand that. I mean, she does go on later on to say that it's always fun to watch the reactions from people that have never watched the show. There are a few episodes I can't stand, like Blood and some others that I won't spoil for you, especially one on season 9. So we've got that to look forward to.
A long way down the line, unfortunately.
And she says, don't try to make too much sense of the mythology. I completely agree with Blood on that one. But it's nice to know that you're enjoying the show, and thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot actually from like long-time fans, that the mythology starts really good, gets really good in the middle, and then sort of drops off.
But you know what? As a long-time sci-fi fan, I'm on board with just rolling with it.
Yeah. And
look at Back to the Future and stuff like that. There's so many things that you can pick holes in it, as long as it works to a certain extent. I'm happy to roll with it.
Yeah, and to be fair, a lot of the best episodes of the X-Files are the Monster of the Week ones, so it's not the end of the world.
Of course, yeah.
So, we also have a tweet from Ray, who's responding to the last episode that we put out, or not the last episode, the one before. This is a problem. We've recorded 2 weeks ahead. This was Firewalker, and she says that I always thought of this episode as the one where a tree grew inside a human.
To be fair, creature.
It does look like some kind of plant or something like that. So,
it does. Yeah, it looks like a vine.
Yeah, I thought it was a twiglet or something. She said that it was an okay episode, but there was a moment in there that made it better because she's a shipper. And she attached a GIF where Mulder basically caresses Scully's face.
I've seen the GIF that you want about.
I've just retweeted that GIF. So if you do want to see it, it's on our account, and you can see Ray's post on there.
I got to admit, I get a little, whenever there's a bit of a charged moment between the two, I get a little bit excited too.
Especially in the episode that we covered today as well.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll finish off with on the same vein with the same episode. Kathy got in touch. She said this episode gets a lot of criticism for failing in comparison to Ice, and that's fair. But I think the parallels between Trepkos and Jesse and Mulder and Scully is interesting. Make the episode interesting, should I say?
Yeah,
that's
a good point. Yeah.
I didn't. Well, I think we might have brushed upon it in the episode, but I don't think we actually fully made that comparison. And looking at it, it is a very interesting point. I'd quite like to go back and watch that episode again with that in mind to see how it works.
Because I guess they are Mulder and Scully who have gone too far.
When it goes wrong,
yeah.
And that point, as soon as I read that point, I was like, that might change the episode for me, so I might go back and watch that. So very good point. But thank you everyone for getting in touch. Sorry if we couldn't read out your tweets. We'll try and get to answer them next episode. But yeah, keep sending them in, and we always reply when you do send them in.
So that's everything this week. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can contact us on, I think Twitter's our best one, to be honest. A lot of people get in contact with Twitter, and it's probably the easiest one to get.
It's nice and easy to use, isn't it? Yeah.
And that's at Most Unwanted Pod. You can also drop us an email at mostunwantedpodcast@gmail.com. We do have a Facebook, and if you want to follow that, and we do have Instagram, which
just any social media, just search for us, Most Unwanted Podcast, pretty much constantly.
And it's all in the show notes below as well, so just click the link on there. Next week, we're picking up... Oh,
sorry. Something I forgot to mention in the last episode. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a 5-star review. We'll love you forever.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that.
We always forget that, because when we started this, again, glance behind the curtain, I need to stop saying that. Yeah. But when we started this, we didn't want to be that podcast. Yeah. We didn't want to be that podcast that sort of pushes for likes. And at the end of the day, we wanted to do it for ourselves, and if people enjoyed it, then that's great. Yeah. But as time's gone on, and we've realised, well, we really enjoy people coming along with us and contacting us and stuff like that. We want to expand so more people can see it. Definitely. Sharing, liking, telling your friends, it all helps to get as many people listening to the podcast and getting involved with everything. So 5-star reviews, even just sharing, telling your friends, that would be amazing.
For the new year, we want some new subscribers. Let's
have a big push in the new year. We've got our anniversary coming up. We've actually off air. We've actually been talking about plans for our 1 year anniversary. I don't know what we're going to do yet. We've not decided, but I think we've got some special things on the horizon.
That naked calendar idea. I don't know how it's going to go down, but we shall see. But anyway, I feel like that's everything this week.
I think so.
Next week, we'll be picking up with episode 11, called Excelsis Dei. I think that's how it's pronounced. It looks Latin, so I'm not very good with Latin pronunciation. But
we shall find out.
We'll find out. Week. I'm sure somebody will say it in the episode, and we'll be like, there we go.
Yeah. Next week we'll pronounce it perfectly.
Perfectly. But anyway, that's been us. So we'll see you next week, guys.
See you next week. They're juggling a lot of balls.
Yeah.
Keep it clean. Yeah. Keep it clean. You told me to keep it clean.
You said it. You went.
Yeah, juggling a lot of balls is a normal saying.
Yeah.
At least we've got a blooper now. A blooper we can use.
Yeah, we can use that one.
All this blue humour being taken out. This entire episode, they're juggling a lot of ball.
I don't think you're going to get that line out.
I don't think I am. It's the only way.
Juggling a lot of plots. Why is that funnier?
It just is.
He says that it should split up and go after... Mulder is going to go after the kids. Sorry. No, he's not. Old Gert, he's got into his head.
Tell me more about these videos.
Videotapes.
Especially these.
The kiddie ones.